per second or 5 to 10 feet per second?
Quick.
5 to 10, smashes the ground. She has a child behind her, and she's just going to react. She's going to go forward, or she's going to go backwards. Well, this trampoline, this catapult is going to do something to her, but she's lucky because she just reacted backwards with her child. She almost crushed her child, and she held on. The thing hit the ground and slammed, and she freaked out and started crying. But she survived that phase of the single action requiring no special knowledge. Right? She gets down to the very end, to the tip, and it's already on the ground, and she's freaking out. The kid's crying. She takes her 150 pounds off the fire escape. What's behind her? The 50-pound
The other
kid.
end of the catapult going back.
And the kid goes.
No.
So what happens to the kid?
Airborne.
Airborne, but this kid is great. He got some training from his mom just a couple of seconds ago, like hold on, because this crazy ride has got lots of turns and things. And so the kid holds on. And all of a sudden, the kid is up 12 feet in the air. 12 to 14 feet is the average clearance underneath every cantilever. And the kid is up there, and the mom is telling the kid in her nightgown to do what?
Jump.
Remember that other picture of that girl on a ladder? What was her mom doing down below?
Jump.
What was the kid doing?
Hanging on.
Right? So the mom runs out of that alleyway, goes to the front of the house to do what?
Go back in, come down.
You guys are gonna let that happen? Let somebody go back into a burning building?
They die here.
Well, you guys ain't there yet. So she's about to grab a rock, a stone, and do what? Because she doesn't have what?
Keys.
Keys. Just as she's about to throw a chair or a garbage can through the front door and do whatever, and she's freaking out, who shows up? You guys do. You guys say, what are you doing? What's this crazy lady in pajamas doing out here? So my kid in the back alley, and you run down with her, and you get underneath the fire escape and look up at the kid and tell the kid to do what?
Jump.
What's the kid do?
Hang on.
Hangs on. You have to run back to your truck and get the pole and do what?
Pull down now.
Go up and hook the ladder and bring it down. Single action requiring no special knowledge. So you bring it down and you put your foot on it. The mother's reunited with the kid. The rest of the firemen start getting into your place there. And can you let go of that? You just lost one fireman. He's a doorstop now. And everybody's around, swirling around, there's more people. Are we fighting fires, or is this a rescue mission? First order of business?
Rescue.
Fight the fire or rescue mission? People in the building. 50 people
Yeah.
on the fire escapes. Fighting a fire or rescue mission? Rescue. How many minutes? A lot of minutes. And the building does what in the background? Because this single action requiring no special knowledge wasn't working? Now, let's reverse the scenario. For every cantilever and ladder you have in this city, she comes here with her child, dragging along during a fire. She hits this release arm on this seesaw that's perfectly balanced, that weighs only 25 pounds more on the nose, so it's perfectly balanced. And it has a stopper over here that basically is only holding 25 pounds. And she runs through this bar that even if she was an idiot, she just has to push it away because it's single action requiring no special knowledge. She runs through this thing, she probably didn't even see it, and by the time she comes down the stairs towing a child and hits the pivot point, this has done what prior to her getting there? Has come down and hit the ground and stayed down. She then self-evacuates with her and her child, and you guys arrive 1 minute, 10 minutes, 30 minutes later, who cares? You arrive to do what at the building?
Wait.
Fight the fire. Because everybody else did what with the fire escape? Self-evacuated. Okay? So that's how fire escapes are supposed to be, the cantilevers. Are they like that? Your fire escapes here, you guys have to do that 1 or 2 steps out, and then you step down the fire escape. But then as soon as you get off the fire escape, what happens to it? Goes back up. It's never supposed to go back up. And a lot of times, if these things that have no release arm holding them horizontally, and they're slightly tilted down, and a trash truck is backing into this alley, what is that guy not seeing? An out of balance cantilever that he's gonna clip with his 12 to 14 foot truck and do what to this thing?
Render it inoperable.
By the way, when a trash truck smashes this fixed object and racks it this way and pulls all this, what normally happens to all the connections on that fire escape?
Yeah, load test. Sheared.
We call it a fire escape lottery ticket. We tell the owner, this is your best, worst day, because they're about to fix this entire fire escape. because you got hit in the bottom cantilever. So it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing, because now somebody else is gonna pay the bill of what he should have fixed. That 25 or 50 grand, 75 grand that he doesn't have, now the trash truck is gonna fix 100%, because it's gotta be brought into service. And to be brought into service, it's not just what got damaged by the truck, it's the entire system must be brought into service. So that trash truck will fix anything that he's been neglecting on the entire surface, including a paint job. So a trash truck that would have normally done a $5,000 worth of damage is now is responsible for $75,000 worth of repair.
If you catch a trash.
We need a fleet of trash trucks out there.
See the release arm here? Open, what's it doing? See the cheating chain?
Mm-hmm.
You see a chain on any fire escape cantilever. Is it balanced or unbalanced? Is it a life safety issue?
Yes.
So cantilever's out of balance or a life safety issue. Can you close the building down if you're getting any noise? Missing treads, can you close the building down?
No.
Would you like, let's change the question, would you like to close the building
Yes.
down?
Need a DPD tenant relocation.
So you guys need
assistance.
to work together on this, because a lot of times, it's really about not closing, this is never about closing things down. And let's get the little scenarios out of the way. You know, the slumlord and the little old lady that can't afford to fix it. Ready? Fire escape situation, very bad, dangling treads, life safety issue, that her rental income comes from that 3-story building she owns. What can you do? What can you do there to help that situation? Can you use $1,000 to get a scaffolding company to come in and put a secondary means of egress? And they rent it by the month. $500 or $1,000 or $2,000 a month, depending on the size of the structure, as an example. And mothball the fire escape situation.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm not saying fix, this didn't fix the situation. Slumlord, little old lady, they're both gonna complain about what don't they have.
Money.
So, I'm trying to tell you, you're gonna run across the little old ladies, the foreclosed properties, the bank owned this, that, and the other thing, but you still have people inside of it that have to go to hotel rooms, but paid by who? By the people who can't afford it? So it's not gonna happen, so the city's gonna absorb, but can you place a phone call to a scaffolding company and say, I need a scaffolding over here with OSHA-approved stairs to basically create a temporary egress on this residential, commercial, institutional building, to basically mothball the thing while we all sit and think about this. And get all the heads together.
I don't think we ever thought about that before, like trying to temporarily.
Well, you need a Band-Aid. If you don't come up with a Band-Aid, you can't all just go into surgery, because you're gonna be hung from the highest
That's
rafters.
a good idea. I never thought of it.
Well, OSHA says it's okay, because OSHA says you gotta provide me with other adequate, satisfactory egress.
we do it on construction sites all the time.
So this is that catch-all, whenever somebody's like, I'm gonna call the mayor, my cousin's a third lawyer from the Supreme Court, but can the city order the scaffolding and charge it to the guy?
Not that unless building department can, we can.
Building, I don't know.
Can you order to deem the place safe? Can you
The
order
boss says-
certain activities, right?
The boss says we can, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have to leave it up to the owner, either close the building down or.
Yeah.
So you basically, you're saying, my hands are tied, I can just hang here all the time. But a lot of times, whenever these situations arise,
there's some
I've
cities
seen
can do
fire
it.
watches ordered while they have an inadequate fire escape system. I've seen, many things where you're working with a person. But I just wanted to remind you that scaffolding was never thought of. And I'm telling you, $1,000 a month rental of scaffolding will bite a lot of time for a lot of people. And the owner's paying it anyway. You know what I'm saying? You say,
That's why we
listen,
have email.
he's not gonna give up his daytime job, is he? That comedy career is working. But it is laughable. Some of the things we're supposed to do, our hands are tied. Some things we should do, they tell us, go enforce this, and then as soon as we hear one little noise from the people, and I'm telling you, you're gonna hear noise from these people. You need a 3 to 5 year plan. You need to be able to buy time with these people to say, hey, so can you, on a fire escape, can you have somebody spot repair the fire escape and basically give them a year, otherwise a load test is coming, to basically change all the rest of the fasteners out after that. So, make the fire escape functional and opinion certified, but if you don't load test with this within a year, you have an option. I will order this load test within a year, like on the anniversary date of this certification, this opinion certification, I want a load test, or get back in there and change every one of these fasteners out, there is no load test. So you got a $20,000 load test coming, or for another $11,000, you can have that company come back and just change out all these fasteners because it's due. This thing's 75 years old, it's 83 years old, that's the kind of numbers you're always gonna be. And in some cases, you know, and you gotta throw this at, you may want from the building department a wall evaluation to determine whether this fire escape is ready to be load tested on this structure. Because every now and then you're looking at an envelope wall and you say, man, this thing is already bulging out. And it's got a fire escape attached. The last thing I want to do is load test a fire escape on this. That's a concentrated load. It's, you know, so sometimes even that you know, confidence test of the wall as part of that envelope study is a key here. So we get all kinds of crazy things out there that are smashed. Trucks smashed these. This is Chicago.
Missing railings?
And,
Nice.
oh, you know, the worst part about that is, sorry, I was gonna show you that was a Chicago fire escape that I caught the vendor filling the cement hole with caulking. You know, those yellow tubes. And I dropped a dime on it to the city official, but it was nothing. I was disgusted. And I photographed it too, so I got called to inspect the actual fire escape, but then it was too good of a, you know how you just do too good of an inspection, they're like, thanks for the report, we'll call you later. And then they basically want to buy paper, so they start, they just basically, you know, knock this out of the box. And that's why photographs are important. You know, this confidence test is not coming with, you guys get all the photos always with, you get the photo report always with your confidence test? See, that's what's missing. If you're supposed to have a photo report.
Yeah, I think Roger was talking about that.
So we do it for range hood inspections, some of the confidence tests.
So, you know, actually, our confidence test is really only effective for the ones that don't require a DVD permit, because once you get the write-off on DVD permit, it almost doesn't matter what our confidence test was.
Right.
I mean, it's about the, you know, same.
There's, I think we put it on.
That's what I think we gotta work
That looks like
together.
that's been going on for long enough, it's been repaired a couple of times.
So again, we took if you look at and you read ours, we took the Seattle one and we added language in there that you guys did not have in there.
Yeah, we're
So
looking
look
at
at
that.
the-
Yeah, we're looking at that again as we revise the admin rule, then we're gonna then now filter down to our confidence test and then to our inspection.
And if you guys want to use me as a guinea pig, I'd love to be involved in that, because we were, and again, it took 5 years of us involvement down there with Stu White and AJ Jackson down there in that, and it took 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, there's a lot of information that I have that I can share back with you, so you don't have to run it through the mill one time. I already seen all the mistakes, I can bring those to you and close up loopholes. The only thing that I would be used for is to close up a loophole as a vendor, as an inspector, you know what I'm saying? And I've seen all the mistakes out there, so I can tell you where people are gonna try to sneak through a little hole. And that's what I'm showing you here. I'm showing you that, you know, you guys have been accepting for the past 5 years, even though you had a confidence test, it's basically an opinion letter.
Well, we've red tagged a couple up on Capitol Hill.
Yeah,
We've red tagged a couple.
I mean, we're doing better now than what we did 5 years
Yeah, yeah.
ago, but
Oh, I
we've
know.
got a lot of room to improve.
Yeah.
So this is a stringer, right? This is me in Chicago, looking at a stringer on a 26-story fire escape.
Wow.
That thing's
Palmer Hotel. And this is me with a zoom camera looking up 2 or 3 stories. So, rust, stringers, staircases, treads, smashed trucks. Rust growing when things are sandwiched. A lot of treads, you guys use a lot of flats, but a lot of them have that spacers. Some of them will have space, just keeping the gratings separate from one another. They rot from the inside out. You can't fix them. There's no way to fix these. They're little pipes with a 3/8 rod running through them, and you can't fix them. They rot from the inside out. They're frozen. The only thing you can do, just so you don't have to be replacing grating, is you put another piece of flat underneath it, and you basically put these clips that basically, you get another 5 to 10 years out of these grating, so you don't have to replace it, but eventually replacement is coming for the treads. And otherwise, on the nose of a tread that has these little spacer bar tubings, that front flap lets go, you're tumbling down the stairs. It's the nose of the tread. See the tread? See these? These are all rotted out. So as soon as this gives way, you're dribbling down. So again, it's another one with a piece of flat. You can temporarily buy another 5, 10 years using basically a reinforcement strap that holds the back and the front together and keeping it still squished. So this is not about all replacing. But I think by the time the EPA gets into this, in the next 10 to 20 years, you'll have to replace a lot of these fire escape, because by the time the EPA sandblasting, all the lead has to be off, you're gonna replace fire escapes cheaper than you do if you have to contain them in any way with the EPA requirements. So that's what I see coming down
That's
this.
a whole other issue that be more, we'd have to work with you guys, because that's gonna be outside our,
But the EPA requirement?
all that. and-
That's simple,
The building code there.
That's not maintenance down there, that's just a changing of, they still gotta do it, but.
No, all you have to do is just uncomplicated. Everybody has to get a renovator's license. It's an 8-hour course that most general contractors are taking that talks about when you encounter lead. And so they teach you how to wear the white suit, the little gloves, the little mask. Okay, and that is just to collect the chips associated in the proper disposal of it. So EPA renovator can touch this fire escape without a problem. Collect the chips and properly
But
dispose.
we already have the jurisdiction there, we just send them over to Puget Sound Air Quality, and they do the regulation and licensing here.
Oh, okay.
No, but let me ask you
So
a
we're talking
question.
about removing lead.
Right, but is that, what are they asking for? Because again, OSHA didn't agree with EPA either on this one. So what is the requirement now on every fire escape you have in Seattle that has lead on it? Do they just want you to put the plastic down, hand scrape it, no power tools? Everybody wearing the proper EPA suits and gloves? Are you familiar with the process for them?
We're not enforcing that, we're asking Puget Sound Air Quality to enforce that.
Right, so the Washington Clean Air Act is enforced in the Puget Sound area by a separate government agency called the Puget Sound Clean Air Agency. And so they are the ones who have the
They're doing
jurisdiction
the
over that.
certification.
So if somebody was doing that, then they'd be dealing with fire department, building department, and then Puget Clean Sound.
Puget Air, and they would have to get a certificate or license from Puget Sound.
To determine what they'd have to do to stay in the requirements
Stay
of the
in
clean air,
compliance.
EPA stuff.
Okay, just so you know, to help you even with that part, OSHA says that everybody who touches anything with lead, not just fire escapes, needs to do a blood draw or an oxygen tank, and basically have an envelope around something that has a negative vacuum to it.
So just replace it.
So you don't wanna go down that road, but it may be that eventually you have no choice but to hit that road. But look, can we hit that road 5, 10, 15 years from now? I'm saying that the EPA nationally is currently today giving courses called renovator license for anybody touching houses, factories, buildings, and including fire escapes. That there's a process for us to scrape and paint a structure like this, and it all includes just that we take the 8-hour course, get certified, registered with EPA. Then every state has its own. So you're saying, aside from getting an EPA renovator's license to scrape and paint this, we now must meet the Seattle that has a separate agency to say, I'm using EPA guidelines. So a lot of times, and we hope that that's the case, they're saying, no, you just need to, use EPA guidelines to basically collect the chips, proper disposal of the no power tools, no sandblasting. If you're gonna sandblast, you have to totally create an envelope, because what you don't want is that to be a trigger to say that you can't touch this fire escape because it has lead. I caught that. That's happened to me in Harvard, where we were doing I think it was a 6 or 7 story structure that had lead, that had emergencies, and then you had to abate the area so we could perform the emergency on it. But the abatement company couldn't get on the fire escape because it was dangerous. So it got caught in this catch-22, and all of a sudden they had to mothball that, bring in a stair structure, and then replace the whole fire escape for over $500,000. So what I'm saying, all I'm saying to this is that you got a lot of buildings here, and what you don't want is to overread what is required by the EPA to paint these things. Because if this all of a sudden has to go to a lead abatement company, here's the problem. They'll come in and say, hey, we can abate this fire escape in one of two ways. Sandblast it, which means full encapsulation with a scaffolding, negative vacuum, oxygen tanks, people sandblasting this into nook and crannies that no one can get to. So it's an inadequate sandblasting. Or they're gonna say, no, we're gonna wet sand it, we're gonna use that, we're gonna apply product to it so that we can get all the paint off, which is impossible. You trigger a replacement of the fire escape. So if you don't wanna replace every fire escape simply because now the the lead part of it got to be so crazy. So what you need to do is you need to come back and say, okay, what is exactly the paint requirements? And nationwide, the national norm is that you've got your EPA renovator's license, and that you're properly collecting the chips and everything on the fire escape, and that your people are meeting the minimum EPA requirement, which is the tanks, the white suits, the little gloves, and the proper mask. Okay? But if it's sandblasting, we don't even touch it on sandblasting. It's another type of company that will come in, but the numbers are so astronomical on sandblasting that you're replacing the fire escape anyway.
So would there be a referral from DPD to them saying, hey, this has lead, so make sure you're signed up with them, or how would they get involved?
Apparently, they're not making it a conditional permit.
So
It's
you
basically
just
a
have to hope
referral.
they're
It's
doing
just,
it on their own.
oh, by the way.
Okay.
Well,
Or,
if
or
I can-
hopefully you have a responsible contractor who, of course,
Okay.
Puget Sound Air is not bashful about nailing these guys either, so.
Right.
If I may, just so that it's just, like you said, not nailing these guys with a $35,000 EPA fine for every violation of this, what you wanna do is, you need to name a front guy on the building department that's the fire escape guy. So everybody can write violations and do whatever, but every fire escape goes back to this one guy that is handling fire escape issues. And there's one guy on the fire department side that basically handles everything. And then case by case, you use it as a guinea pig to study it. Just do a case study of the next 5 to 10 fire escapes, just to get your feet wet on what is the best way and what should be the right way to basically look at, did everybody do everything correctly? Did the engineer do it correctly? Did the vendor do it correctly? Did the painting guy do it correctly? Oh,
Larry, you have battery power.
no, that's true.
Unplug it.
There you go.
Well, Lieutenant Sergeant's
There's
our
a gun
conference
range
test
just got
guy.
hammered for tens of thousands of dollars on the east side for exposing workers. They were redoing their pit just a couple of weeks ago. They got
I
jammed
saw
up pretty
that.
good.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
All right, so now we're almost at the end of the piece,
Yeah.
and I apologize that it reset to a.
You want me to send you a direct copy of that, what we proposed for the Adderall?
Yeah, I need to see
Because
the
I
current-
think
see the current one.
Rich sent it over to probably one of your people who, Maureen or somebody who said, yeah, it'll be a while before we got to it. So I don't know if anybody else, it got filtered down to anybody else.
It'd be great, and I could
And
go
then,
back and check
yeah,
mine, see if
because
that's
then we can work.
And gentlemen, if I can be involved in any part of that, I'd love to throw in the little tidbits. I'll tell you what mistakes LA made, what mistakes Portland made, what mistakes Boston made.
But I think as we're
What-
reviewing
what-
our confidence test requirements and then also our permitting side of things, that's probably where it'd be helpful, I'm sure.
I'll tell you all the sneak outs.
Yeah.
I'll show you all the ways to break, not to break the law, but to skirt the law on that part. And again, it does need its attention simply because it's been too long that everybody's been playing under the paint rule
Yeah,
with fire escapes, and that's why this got to where it is today.
it's definitely a catch-up project.
Yeah, it's a total catch-up. And not only catch-up, you need 3 to 5 years, if not 10 years of steady, activity, and basically, and then once you get the basics, you have to sort of modify it to Seattle, because it's not gonna be 100% like Portland or
Right.
like LA. So you're gonna absorb 75% of the norm, but then 25%, you're gonna tweak it so that it fits your standard situation here. And let's show you a cantilever that's being dropped. And what it looks like when it's dropped 2 to 3 feet per second. So again, the connections, when you get this much rust, this is a school, by the way, elementary schools. You know, so we get a lot, you know, look at, that's almost an inch of rust.
That's not salvageable.
The connection, and yeah, a lot of times it's already eating the channel,
Right.
eating the clip. It's gotta come from both sides. So his typical ladder, guys, that you've seen out there, a lot of these down in California, everybody see an accordion ladder?
Ah.
So instead of fold-out ladder or guillotine ladder, they have what's called accordion ladder. These things will expand almost to 25 feet.
Whoa.
And so when you release it, basically it's like an accordion, it just opens up and it's a rigid ladder.
Okay, your fingers
Now,
are sucking.
just gravity, or is that hand crank
No,
up there?
you know, you release it and then once it fully extends, that's when you, and then to bring it back up, you just crank it back up.
Okay.
See the crank? Very popular in San Francisco down to LA. You don't see it up here because any freezing would basically lock that baby up. So it has to be in areas where freezing is not an issue. So it's traditional fire escapes, you know, with a fixed ladder. You got the weighted guillotine style ones that basically when you release, they drop 2 to 3 feet per second.
We always get people asking to cut the ladder off for security, and then we refer them over to building and say.
Well, let's answer that question right now. There's a lot of fire escapes that we're gonna find that 9 feet off the ground, and they
There
cut off the
are
rest.
a lot of
It's
them that are
illegal.
already that way.
Yep.
Well, it's illegal because the law says you must continue to the ground. And you continue to the ground either with what you did cut off, you just bring it up and you make it slide down. So you can still have it 9 feet off the ground, but you're supposed to provide, as the law states, the building code states, it must be continuous to grade. So you basically, when you release it, it drops down either with weights, or you have the fold-out ones. You know, we have a couple of here on Yesler
Yeah.
that we put on there that folds out and makes an 18-inch fire escape. So it folds into itself, and then it releases, so that still continues to the ground. So there's many ways, so there's a lot of fire escapes that are gonna fail because you've cut off, you can't have grandma jumping 9 feet, okay? And the goosenecks, who does the goosenecks? And a lot of these goosenecks are not properly attached. So you guys know that in Portland and Seattle, you guys are the only ones with outside ladders for the fire escape guys, I mean for the firemen? Nowhere else in the country that they have outside ladder on the fire escape. So in Portland, it's pretty common to see that ladder that goes 100 feet on a 10-story. And that ladder is only for the firemen. Yet on the inside, there's a staircase that ends in a ladder. But the firemen don't use this fire escape to go up and down. They use this outside ladder. You guys have a few of those here too, where there's this outside ladder. Only for the firemen. And if that's not properly attached all the way to the gooseneck, what happens? Pulls away. And sometimes people modify ladders and they make them with a flop out. This is called a swing out, flop out, right? What's wrong with this picture?
Special knowledge.
Well, aside from, they give you this little chain that you're supposed to
Get out
let,
of
but
the
if you
way.
let it go, what happens to the fireman downstairs?
Yeah,
When this thing
Cuts
comes
his
down,
head off.
Piles it right on his head. So it's illegal, you can't do this, you can't have it swing out, because now this is what it looks like when it's fully extended. But as long as there's no dog, no person or anybody down below, so it's illegal. You have to make them slide down, fold out.
It's probably gonna hit the ground hard enough to wreck itself.
Well, I was just gonna say, yeah, that's.
And it will bend, yeah. But there's a chain, you're supposed to gingerly let out so much chain, but then after a point, because when it's up here doing this and you're letting, after a point, it reaches this point, it then,
Well, not everybody can hold on to it.
Then you can't hold it anymore, because it'll
Do it when it gets to that point.
so here's a cantilever out of balance.
Yeah, you can't.
You'll write a violation on this, right? Here's another cantilever out of balance, you'll write a violation. So what do they do to cheat so that you never see this when you're walking downtown?
Chain.
$25, chain, and you tie it where? She had the
Anywhere.
answer?
Above.
Above.
Somewhere.
Somewhere above, right? Cantilever in Chicago, 12 to 14 feet off the ground with a release arm. So we were doing an inspection, there's fire escapes all over the place here. So this evacuates the whole building. There's a release arm there, it's supposed to be single action requiring no special knowledge. So now I got instructions from people below telling me what to do. And I'm like, no, it's not the other way. There's only one way, so go forward, right? So when you go forward, single action requiring no special knowledge, 2 to 3 feet per second, hits the ground and stays down. It's very violent, so how often do you want to do this every year on a fire escape?
No.
once a year, right? And you drop it twice. So see the violence? Now, while we were there doing this and videotaping, guess what showed up?
No.
On cue, right? And we want to show you what happens on a 14-foot truck, just how little room you have when they back down an alley. Do they have anybody watching their tail?
No.
Or they back down by themselves?
Usually by themselves.
Now, we had the fire escape back up, and I want to show you just how little clearance there is. So if these things are not properly locked in position and there's wind, snow, or ice, you see how tight
Yeah, the insurance.
it is? Now, and this is another one. See, he's about to go underneath that one. You see the chain?
You gotta hit that one.
See that chain right there? If it wasn't for these chains keeping these things horizontal, but instead of chains, you're supposed to have release arms holding them horizontal. People use chains because it's cheaper to put an unbalanced fire escape up horizontally. Okay?
Good job.
Classes, DC, Portland, LA.
You got a bunch of the Portland ones on
Jersey.
YouTube, right? So I was letting these guys know.
Oh yeah, a lot of our classes, if you go on to, National Fire Escape Association.org, and you click in there, there's not only the videos that we recorded, but also the name, phone number, and email of a lot of these people that hosted these classes. And you can just call them and say, hey, what's your feedback? What mistakes have you made? What am I about to run into?
Yeah. I just letting the people from Everett know about those YouTube videos.
Housing authorities, so it's just not building departments or fire departments. Housing authorities have yearly inspections for HUD.
Getting those people.
How about your health inspectors? Everybody forgot about the health inspector. What's he supposed to require? Remember those things that are standard? So you ask for the building department to close any permit. You ask, do you have an interior or exterior second means of egress? Exterior, great. As a checklist item, I need a copy of the certificate so I can close this permit. On the fire department, closing out the smokes, checklist item. I need a copy of of your fire escape examination so that I can close the smoke inspection that I did. Housing inspectors, once a year, in order to rent housing, they must have certificates on file. So get your housing authorities to make sure that they put it on their checklist. How about the health inspector? How's he gonna kick in?
Looking for rats.
Yeah, but I think he'll understand that the housing inspector has some power in there because he's supposed to check for a lot of things, including means of egress.
Right.
So he adds to his checklist during any examination, during any violation, to close his violation for cockroaches, permits, rats, whatever. What's he asked to close his file?
Egress.
An egress certificate. Because that's the one thing, right? He normally would go in the front of a building, and here's how much disrespect we've gotten on fire escapes, right? I get a 5-story commercial building or residential building. And all of a sudden I walk in the front stairs and everything is beautiful. And then I walk towards the back of the building. There used to be a stairway there, right? And they took it out to make everybody have walk-in closets. What's the building inspector immediately gonna do on that building? There's no second means of egress in the inside of that building.
You better be right.
What is it?
Violation.
Is he gonna let people continue staying in there?
As a practical matter?
As
As a practical matter, yeah.
Right? Only because he's looking for that interior stair. It's missing because they extended all their closets, and all of a sudden you shut the building down. That same building, if the fire escape was on the outside and it was missing all its treads, you know what you would do? You'd let the building continue, and you'd write a violation, and that 30 to 60, 90 days later, they're kind of working out that violation. So as soon as you brought it outside, everybody started ignoring it. You bring it in, you bring it on the inside, there's a lot more things going on. So, the key of our class, are we here to promote load testing?
No.
Where do you keep it?
Yes.
Right?
Card, back pocket.
Back pocket is your trump card, and do you want to quote your international fire code, do you want to quote the international building code, or do you want to quote NFPA? Which one says it the best? The authority having jurisdiction shall accept by load test or other evidence of strength. So please provide me with other evidence of strength. So in the question regarding this wall, what do I want you to do? To not touch the existing connections. What do I want you to do to avoid load test?
Replace all the.
Through bolt it again. Just reattach me back to the building, leave the sleeping dog's line. On all your rivets and square head bolts, what do I want done?
Replace
Replace them
Backup.
or reinforce them if there's enough meat there. Otherwise, replace them. All your welded connections, what do you want me to do?
Reinforced.
With what?
Bolt.
Put a bolt. What do you do with a welded connection? Seal it to stop what happening? Water intrusion? Is that, those three things will satisfy other means of strength for you? So if I've satisfied other means of strength, have I satisfied International Fire Code? Have I satisfied the International Building Code? Great. Now everybody's happy. Let's just leave it alone. Let's move on. So, 3 to 5 years. A lot of times when I show this piece to everybody, which is, the last page on your book,
Yeah.
I got newbies in the room. You've been doing this for 5 years, but people have been getting away with things on the back end. You know what I'm saying? So we gotta close up a lot of those loopholes, and that's why it takes time. So you're in the 5 to 10 year program now, right now, to basically implement a program that's gonna take almost 10 years to kick all the bugs out of it. That's good. Congratulations. And again, I send a lot of people to your website to basically say, if you want an industry standard, when somebody goes, oh, but this is not a state document, blah, 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 I said, listen, if it's an industry standard and it's sitting on somebody's website, you want a building department one or you want a fire department one? Go to seattle.gov, go to tacoma.gov, go to la.gov, and you're gonna find these industry standard. If you've got some structural engineer that knows the governor that's all of a sudden freaking out and saying, hey, they're making me fill out, then listen, you don't have to fill out the form. Just go there and answer all the questions that are on that form and put it on your letterhead. All right? Because you know who they're gonna send to do the inspections. So this is Tacoma's, and they're yearly. This is the city of Boston, and it says right there, to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, the Farscape is in conformity with the building code. That's all we have to sign. And you know who signs this? Registered professional or others acceptable to the building official. So if I have a G3 license, can I sign off on my own work?
You can, it's acceptable.
And if all of a sudden I can hide under a paint activity, a maintenance activity that needs no permits, can I basically fix my own stuff and sign off on my own stuff? Is this a problem? Currently, right now, is it a problem? So,
It's basically what we had before.
exactly. You have opinions.
Well, we didn't have that before, we just had the building owner sign it off on their own.
Yes, I've looked out my window and it looks good, leave me alone.
We went on the trust system.
Literally.
But as Reagan says, trust,
But verify.
and all you're doing is you're putting in documentation. See, this first documentation is nothing more than for the design professional. You're gonna make this so that the design professional understands the liability he's carrying. Because you're gonna pull out of your pocket what? The nullifier, the equalizer for you as a building official, fire official. What's the equalizer?
Load test.
Whenever this guy is ramming his credentials down your throat, right?
Excellent, should have no problem passing the load test.
I'm happy. I see you've kept enough of the nostalgia here of all the original hardware, and I love it. Load test, because you spot repaired, triggers an automatic load test. You fully refurbished this thing that should have done it when?
25,
At 15 to 25.
No, at its 25th to 50th birthday. How do you know that? How do you know it should have been done in the 20? Who made that up?
Quarter inch.
Well, we just use common information that everything in the average building gets swapped out in 25th to 50th birthday, doesn't it? So did we swap out all the electric? Did we swap out the roof? Did we swap out all the windows? Did we swap out all the plumbing in that building in the 25th to 50th birthday? And this thing's already 83 years old today. So usually on every 25-year cycle, something's happening. What did they never do?
Fire escapes, extra.
Right? So we're just basically saying historically, this building has gone through all the changes except for one piece of it. And here it is.
When the Rodney Dangerfield of the fire, buildings.
So this is what Lowell did, our model city in the East Coast. They sent out this with your tax records.
Oh.
Okay? They sent out a letter that says, hey, did you know there's a code that says the fire escapes must be examined? And now that we've been made aware that we really didn't know what we were doing, we now have sent it out with the taxes. They sent out a letter saying, please be aware that over the next 1 to 3 years, we are going to be tripping over you. But you, in the meantime, if you want to get off and get into it now, get your fire escape up to speed, because what we don't wanna get you with is fines, fees, and penalties. Because once you put a yellow tag or a red tag on the building, is there any fines, fees, or penalties associated with that while the meter's running?
There can be.
There should be, because if the dog has no bite, what do you do to the fence? You kick it. But if there's a gate that's open and the dog is growling, what do? You play nice and you do what's told, so there needs to be teeth. If there's no teeth, which can be waived at any time, right?
The building department has some things, fire department, the only time we can do it is after we've been to court and have done a court case, otherwise we have no fees.
We don't have fines, we have cost recovery.
Yeah.
Then you need to bring that in, because this is one thing. So Lowell did that, and basically instituted with the taxes, they used that letter to get out and say, hey, everybody, we dropped the ball on this. Be aware that we're on top of this now,
That may not be a bad idea.
okay? And guys, copy. Speak with Reg 4. Look at all the pain that Portland went through, because they were chasing you guys, and then they went ahead of you guys on this, but then they went extreme head, because you get into this, some of their load testing is
See,
insane.
so, a lot of that stuff, that's where educating the professionals, like, and then that's how to get those guys trained, so then
So-
we're not dictating.
So the next class, like they did, is, so this is a great class for you guys to know that this really needs to be another class for architects, engineers, and vendors, to basically say, we're ready to start writing violations, you guys need to know how to properly enforce this, because building department's not gonna enforce it, we're just gonna write permits for it. Fire department's not gonna enforce it, we're just gonna write violations. And in the middle is supposed to be these vendors,
Right.
following the rules of these engineers who are properly trained to inspect and provide a repair criteria that meets one of two things. You're gonna be spot repairing, and let me tell you what a spot repair looks like. That design professional is gonna go out with a $2 can of spray paint. He's gonna walk, because he's not gonna write half-inch thick of paper and give it to a blue-collar guy, because guess what he's not gonna do? He's not gonna read it. You know what I'm saying? He's got a finger painted for dummies, and he's gonna grab this white can of paint and go, "Psst, fix that, psst, 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 psst." Once he gets to the top, he's gotta photograph all the things he's just marked, because you think somebody's gonna try to hide those pictures? Then, while he's out there with today's technology on every phone, he's gonna video talk it when he's up above. He's gonna video talk it and say, hey, this, and this needs to get done, and document that in case somebody wants to check the progress, which is you. He can send you a video link. If you wanna see one of those, go online, and that's what we do. To basically do the oversight, we brought technology to say, I don't need you at the job site. Let me give you the photographs associated with it, let me give you the video link of what needs to be done, and you can determine that it's a life safety issue with today's technology. A single letter, a single checkbox opinion letter is not sufficient. They're getting away with opinion again, they just got onto the backside, got it?
Got it.
So, but copy, look, guys, there's tons of stuff out there that, people have sort of morphed. So, this 3-card idea is gonna be a national standard. That's what we're working on. Confidence test is a national standard, which you guys copied one of my tests, and thank you very much, because now my test is unacceptable. The fact that you copied my test and all the wording in it is more acceptable than my test that they won't accept because it's from a private individual.
It's like being married.
Now go to work. So tagging, guys, it's coming nationwide. White tags, yellow tags, red tags.
Well, we have the big placard on them after they've been done. Right up here, the Panama is one of those.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And then who's this for? This is for the
us.
firemen.
Yeah.
Middle of the night, this is for the firemen to know it's white is all right. Again, we don't want to have a tragedy for another reason for us to get together. Now guys, fire escapes, all exterior steel or wooden stairs must be examined under the code. You'll find that out to be true, right? So right now, we're only focused on fire escapes, but is this a way to get out of your building, which is considered a fire escape? Are these? By the way, there's your, your towers on your parking garages, right? So let's see if these are all fire escapes / steel or exterior steel or wooden stairs. Ready?
Wow.
Right? Exterior steel or wooden stairs, right? exterior steel wooden stairs to provide egress. Exterior steel wooden stairs, bridges, balconies.
Hmm.
You have to examine those if they're exposed to weather. It's right in the code, isn't it? Let's see what that building code, by the way, building code, it
Is
says
there a
that.
stair?
That's over that way.
A ladder?
All exterior steel or wooden bridges, balconies, fire escapes. Got it? How about hotels with these exterior walkways exposed to weather and snow and ice and all that stuff? Those need to be examined? We'll get those on the next round, but you know what? All exterior steel or wooden stairways. How about these porches on the back of buildings that people put bikes and
We've run-
cans
We've
and,
run into those.
and aren't these is this the second means of egress, guys?
Yeah,
So these are exterior steel or wooden fire escapes.
out the back, a bunch of these old apartment buildings up on Capitol Hill.
And by the way, you guys have this other problem. You guys got these 1, 2-story things that are forbidden to be touched by anybody but the Pope. Am I correct? There's a whole, doesn't cover 1 and 2 families?
Oh, yeah, well, then it goes in residential code, it's not building code.
Right. But isn't fire department, don't you guys fight every fire? Or you guys don't touch residential people anymore? Right? So there's that, you have to find in the residential code where this maintenance part is required so that you guys can basically scoop those people in. Got it?
That's why we need to work together.
So, needs to be watched? How about these? How about these? How about this thing, it's only 4 feet off the ground? Exterior, needs maintenance, needs paint or not? See how big this thing is? We're just dealing with fire escape. Get your feet wet on fire escape, and then you're gonna grow into all exterior steel or wooden stairs must be examined. Spirals. Decks, Chicago, 27 people dead on the ground. Miami, how many people fell into the alligator pit?
One.
25.
How many came out? 25 went in. We were able to recover 12. Not all limbs matched.
Gator country.
Well, that happened. You guys remember the airline that crashed into the swamp? And what was it? One of the airlines that went out of business in Miami, Florida. Some crazy,
Yeah, about 20 years ago.
20-something years ago. Remember, it went into the swamp. By the time they got there, they couldn't find half the people. I mean, the alligators ate most of the people. How about this? How about handicap ramps, guys? Is that an exterior steel wooden bridge? Subject to examination? Steel catwalks, cement catwalks. All of these must be examined. If it's exterior, the life safety of this dog is very, very important. We need to secure that for that dog to make sure he doesn't get hurt. How about farm equipment? How about refineries? When you guys are fighting fires, are you guys gonna go up to some of this equipment to go fight a fire? Billboards. Is that all part of the International Building Code? How about catwalks, skywalks? Who is examining those things? They're means of egress.
That's tough.
Depends on what it is.
Got it? How about these people that put a ladder, a Home Depot ladder up against the wall? Like this guy.
Good luck.
That's their second means of egress. You know what's missing there? A balcony. You can't just have a ladder out your window. You need a balcony. But number 2 is, this is one of those single-family homes that got converted either to a 2-family or a 3-family illegally, and they just threw a ladder up, and now there's apartment, and apartment.
Only 3?
Only 3. There's no backs.
Basement,
Also,
the bedroom.
well, there's only 3 in the attic.
Spirals, guys, examined. Start with fire escapes. Don't let this blow your head but once you start with fire escapes, it's an easy transition over the next 5 to 10 years for you guys to basically go in and start capturing a lot of these as you start dealing with egress. Ready? 12-story slidescape. This is Elizabeth, New Jersey.
Oh.
This is on the roof, so I'm way up there with a guy. And every floor inside, there's these two little orange doors that you open up, and it's 12 stories. See this right
Where
here?
is it?
It goes down here,
Oh,
corkscrews.
that? You're kidding.
And then when you reach down here, at the first floor, it takes a right-left hook turn. And you go down this kid slide, straight shot, to a steel door with a huge paddle that your feet are supposed to whack.
And the big crack.
This door opens and you fall out.
Oh,
12 stories, ready? Let's see what it looks like.
don't wear shorts.
Yeah.
Did you
There's
video
the-
it? Did you
Oh, by
have
the
a
way,
webcam?
it's dark. You don't get a flashlight when they throw you down this thing. This is what it looks like when you look down the pit.
Oh,
It's a
Come on,
corkscrew.
Halloween.
Dude, I ain't doing it.
Are
Anything
you
to
afraid of
indicate
heights?
that when you're going in, that somebody else is gonna come hit you, or are you supposed to make noise on the
Oh,
way down
you're worried about
the
that?
highway,
Oh, well,
or-
you're gonna go down tail first, head first, tumbling.
Do they have a maximum circumference on?
Well, just, when you look at it in the codes, Slidescape was still in the code as of probably 20 years ago still. Nobody built them anymore.
That was before my-
And this is 100 years old. This is a Art Deco building, built in 1902, 1905.
Really?
So it's one of the only slidescapes I've ever seen in the nation. But it's on a 12-story building, and it's an active building. This is their second means of egress. They only have one staircase, an elevator, and a slidescape.
Oh.
Here's some other slidescapes. Now, military used to use, this was typical for military. The barracks used to have the slidescapes on the barracks.
Yeah, one story fine, but.
You see those at the McDonald's now.
Yeah. In the playpen.
It's a one-way set. Look at a kid. Look at off a slidescape. So slidescapes were, I mean, this was just something to basically, people came up to say, let's help, something is better than nothing. But then eventually it became an issue, that slidescapes are a one-way system, you can't go back up them in any way. So here's another system, and we're at the end, this is the end of the show, guys. This is the bag ladders that you hook on the thing. It's not an acceptable means of egress. It is a third means of egress, not a second means of egress. It's basically what you buy for 75, $100 to $300 will buy a bag ladder.
Hey, it's better than nothing.
So, here's the latest, greatest, ready? For $2,000 to $4,000, and I'm gonna show you something for $2 to $4 million. Already gone through the approval process. Now, one of the biggest problems you had with the towers was that people from upper floors couldn't get through the 2 to 3 stories that were burning. There was no helicopter fleet for everybody to go up and just basically take a helicopter out. And there was no way for people to get down without jumping basically a one-way ride. So this guy invented a system that can go up to 50 stories or more, and he got it approved, and he's an ex-firefighter. And you can buy these systems for $2,000 to $4,000 and do two things. I can buy one on my own building, so I can self-evacuate out of the 15th floor of my house. Or you guys can have this on your truck and basically bring it into a building, get to a roof, get to a window on any place on a high rise over 7 stories because your trucks don't go, and start evacuating people on this. This is $2,000 to $4,000 that people can buy. It's a third means of egress. It's not a second means of egress. And the fire departments, every fire department should have one of these. Okay? And they've used these on towers, prison towers, air towers, because it's a one-way system, meaning that a lot of towers just have one stair. And so they started buying this, and it has been approved.
So
And then
it's over 7 stories, but up to how many?
the cabling on this can go over 50 stories.
Okay.
So if you live in a high-rise building, you probably at least wondered how you would get out of there if there was a fire. Those fears became all too real for thousands of Americans on September 11th. Many were trapped in the World Trade Center towers.
And this is
as
where we're
the
gonna
floors
end.
below
After this one, there's
burned.
just one more.
Well, now the Winters are working on new technology to help people get out alive. Ari Odzer has a look at one invention. Go ahead, step up.
And down he goes. Looks simple, and it is. The Recover All high-rise evacuation system
Training at a fire
being tested on this day by firefighters.
I think this is impressive. It looks pretty easy to set up, it's easy to use, it's hand-free operation.
Compresses between
self-contained.
2 floors, and then it has the cable.
I think it'll work. Our equipment was designed specifically.
And it's a
to be
two-way
used
system,
by
so as you
people
go
with
down,
children. That's
the other
why
cable
we
comes
chose
back up,
the
brings
device
up the
that
other
is fully
bag, so you can go up and down all the way.
automatic That's why we enclose the victim inside a
Okay,
full coverage
so it's not a one-way
suit,
system,
which
it's a two-way
eliminates severe
system.
heights.
The first step for evacuation is putting on the big suit. Kind of makes you look like a baked potato, but this actually
Bring a child in there with you,
protects heat and
450
flame
pound
during a real
capacity on
fire
these.
situation.
Put a dog in there with
Firefighters
you,
let us go for
get
a
over the
test
rail and
ride.
just jump off.
You can
You
have
drop
these
2 to 3 feet
machines
per
on your
second.
condo balcony ready to use.
You can permanently fix it, so you don't have to have the pole. Otherwise, you guys can have, one man can carry this on his shoulder and bring it to a fire rescue from the 11th floor.
Once you push back and let go, the machine lowers you gently to the ground at the rate of 3 feet
See the other
per
cable that's
second.
coming back up, so you can have
Smooth
it
all the way down.
in
You
2
never
bags.
speed up, you never slow down. It keeps you at that same rate all the way down to the ground. So the obvious question on everyone's mind is, would this system have made any difference in the World Trade Center disaster?
My personal opinion is this would have saved some people out there, absolutely.
Got it?
This came
So,
in and said-
this is something that you can buy as an individual without anybody's permission.
Lieutenant Mike Nugent was there.
This is something that every fire truck can have if it deals with the downtown and over 7 stories, is have one of these in their truck all the time. And basically, with your masks, you can get through the fire, get to the roof, or get to a higher floor and start evacuating people from above. You can even have a helicopter drop somebody on the roof with one of these systems and start evacuating people off the back.
Thinking of
Got
all
it?
the people
So-
trapped by fire in those buildings.
So that was the big issue, right? 2 to 4 million.
This could have made a difference in New York. Not enough.
I'm sorry,
to
$2
save
to
everyone,
$2 to
but
$4,000
enough
per
to save a
system,
few
so
hundred
not that
dollars.
expensive.
In Davie, our
Got it? Here's 2 to 4 million. Now, the guy who invented this and already has one of these models in Israel, a 20-story building. This is an actual model in Israel. Now, I would love to see this on every new construction going up of a brand new brand new building, skyscraper. Your 2 means of egress, your elevator, and a third. This is using technology from cruise liners and such. But watch what this guy did. This is all controlled by the fire department. Okay? The compressed elevator is what you're going to see. The accordion elevator is the key here. So again, controlled by the fire department. This is because there's a block that you cannot get into the building, or there's some inability to get through the 5th floor's block. You can't get beyond the 5th floor. Each one of those open up. There's 5 of them. You can have 3 to 5 or more, but this is the average, 3 to 5. They're putting firemen into the building now, because for some reason the 3rd floor is blocked. You can't get in the traditional way anymore. This is already in Israel. This is a 20-story building that this is built there. Patented and everything. This is showing, even on buildings with offset windows, they built a ramp, handicap accessible. So the firemen now, in 5 floors, there's 5 firemen working 5 floors. And what are they doing? Rescue mission or firefighting?
Rescue.
So let's get everybody out of the building, because for some reason they can't go down the traditional way. So this is not to say, hey, don't use the stairs anymore. This something tragic has happened and you can't use the stairways anymore. And all these people, again, controlled by the fire departments, $2 to $4 million bucks. The firemen that stay behind are doing what? Fighting the fire. And they're evacuating people at the very bottom. Now imagine mandatory, this is your mandatory 3rd means of egress of every Seattle building that's going to go up now, must have one of these, if not 2 of these on every rooftop, sitting there, waiting and poised, that if you have any situation where you have over 7 story, there's a floor burning, how do you get everybody else above those floors out? Through a 3rd means of egress. $2 to $4 million. Tested, proven, so the dinosaurs, traditional fire escapes. Is there new technology out there? Sure is. You're looking at it. But believe it or not, 98% of what you have here is traditional old dinosaur fire escape systems that we now need to get a new fresh look at. But what do we have on the wings for these 50, 75-story buildings coming to your city? And what about all these existing structures that are 15, 20, 25 stories? Can you have them implement a 3rd means of egress system? $2 to $4 million. They spend more of that on marble floors than they've, but you know, it's another way of getting there. And that's pretty much as they say, the end of the show. So I think I did pretty well, right on the dot.
There you go. Thank you, man. That's awesome.
So if